I was a loner and it made me stronger. I was a loner, not because I chose to be invisible, but because I felt invisible. I walked through life like a shadow, quiet, observing, listening to voices that weren't mine, trying to belong in spaces that didn't feel like home. There were days when the silence was louder than any noise. Birthdays came and went without a text. Group photos never had me in the frame. And sometimes the world made me believe that being alone meant being less than. But let me tell you something now, being a loner didn't make me weak. It made me powerful, it made me whole, because in solitude I met someone no one else had time to see me. When the noise of the world fades, you begin to hear the voice within. And that voice, it's honest, it's raw, it doesn't flatter you. It challenges you, it tells you that you're not broken, you're just in a season of becoming. You see, when no one walks with you, you learn how to carry your own weight. When no one cheers for you, you learn to be your own motivation, and when no one believes in you, you learn to believe in yourself or you fall. I used to think being alone meant I was unwanted, but I learned that solitude is sacred. It's the forge where warriors are made. It's the gym where the mind grows strong. It's the mirror where truth cannot be hidden. Some of the greatest transformations happen when no one is watching. I stopped chasing crowds that never saw me. I stopped begging for attention from people who barely cared, and I started building. I started dreaming. I started moving in silence, and that silence became my strength. So if you're listening to this and you feel like you're alone, misunderstood, different, good, that means you're not like everyone else. That means your path is different. That means you are called for something greater than blending in. Yes, I was a loner, but I wasn't lost. I was learning. I was growing. I was becoming. The world may not have clapped when I took my first step, but now they'll have no choice but to notice the roar I became. You don't need 1,000 people to believe in you. You just need you. Your journey is not about being popular, it's about being powerful, not loud, but legendary. To everyone who feels alone right now, don't give up, don't wish it away, embrace it, use it, let it shape you. Let it strengthen you, let it show you who you really are, because one day the world will ask how you did it, and you'll say, I was a loner, but I was never weak, I was just preparing to rise. The silence that shaped me, there's a kind of silence that most people run from, the kind that echoes in an empty room, the kind that reminds you that you are alone. I used to fear that silence. I used to believe that silence meant I was forgotten, unimportant, unwanted. But now I realize something deeper. That very silence was shaping me. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The early days of loneliness growing up, I didn't fit in the way others did. I wasn't the loudest in the room. I wasn't the most outgoing. I didn't crave attention. I craved peace. But the world often makes peace feel like isolation when you're young, while others gathered in groups, laughed in circles, or shared secrets. I sat in corners, alone with my thoughts. At first I hated it. I questioned everything. What's wrong with me? Why doesn't anyone include me? Why am I always the outsider? I used to think something was missing in me. But in reality, something was being planted. A deeper awareness, a quieter power, and a strength that doesn't need to be loud to be real. Silence is not emptiness, it's space. Let me tell you the truth no one teaches. Silence is not a void. It's a space, and space is where creation begins. In silence, I began to listen, not to the noise of the world, but to the whisper within. I found dreams I never knew I had. I discovered talents I'd never explored. I began to feel everything more deeply, not because I was fragile, but because I was fully present. When the world stops speaking, you start hearing your soul. So I wrote, I walked, I imagined. I built futures in my head when the world didn't give me a platform to build them in real life. And slowly I realized I wasn't empty. I was full of potential, full of passion, full of possibilities, and I had silence to thank for that. Solitude built my identity. The truth is, when you're constantly surrounded by others, it's easy to become what they expect of you. But when you're alone, you discover what you expect of yourself. Solitude gave me the mirror I had been avoiding. I saw my insecurities, I faced my fears, I wrestled with self. doubt, but I also met my real self, the one beyond the masks, beyond the need for approval. The self that was still standing even when no one clapped. Solitude forced me to be real, and once I became real, I became unstoppable. I learned discipline without an audience. I became resilient without recognition. And I cultivated strength that didn't come from applause, but from endurance. Pain was my teacher, silence was my classroom. Yes, it hurt. Loneliness isn't pretty. There were nights when I cried without knowing why. Days when I begged God for just one friend who would understand. But I see now. Pain was teaching me patience. Silence was building my character. In those quiet seasons, I learned how to sit with myself. I learned that discomfort wasn't something to escape, but something to understand. Every lonely night was a lesson. Every ignored message was a brick. And I was building something the world couldn't see, inner strength. From isolation to transformation, then something shifted. One day I stopped resisting the silence. I embraced it. Instead of feeling sorry for being alone, I started using the time. I worked on my skills. I read books, I wrote down goals, I trained my mind, I redefined my life. I no longer saw myself as a victim of isolation. I became a student of it, and I graduated with more clarity, confidence, and peace than I ever found in crowds. Because here's the truth, you don't need noise to grow, you need focus. You don't need attention to become powerful. You need direction, and that direction came when I finally stopped running from the silence and walked straight into it. The person I became, I'm no longer afraid of being alone. In fact, I treasure it, because the person I became in the silence, that person is strong. That person knows who they are. That person doesn't settle. That person doesn't seek validation. That person doesn't need to be seen to feel worthy. That person, me, was shaped in the stillness, and now I can walk into any room and be confident, even if no one knows my name. I can chase goals without needing a crowd behind me. I can speak life into myself because I learned how to in the quiet. To anyone who feels alone right now, if you're in that season, if you're walking through life quietly, wondering if anyone sees you, let me speak to your soul. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are becoming. Don't despise the silence. Don't rush through this season. Use it. Learn from it. Let it mold you. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. And one day, when the world sees the strength, the wisdom, the power in you, they'll ask where it came from, and you'll smile and say, "It came from the silence that shaped me." Alone but not broken, there's a certain kind of silence that doesn't just surround you, it stays with you. It follows you into crowded rooms. It walks beside you even when you're surrounded by people. It's the silence of feeling alone, even when you're not physically by yourself. I know that silence. I know what it's like to lie awake at night with a phone that doesn't ring, to scroll through social media and feel like the world has forgotten you. I know what it's like to eat lunch with no one sitting across from you. I know what it's like to ask, does anyone even see me? But let me tell you something I had to learn the hard way. I was alone, but I was not broken. Loneliness wasn't my enemy, it was my mirror at first. I fought the feeling. I hated the emptiness. I tried to fill it with noise, distractions, fake smiles, shallow friendships, but none of it lasted. Because what I was really avoiding wasn't the silence outside. It was the silence inside. That's the thing about loneliness. It strips away the noise. It leaves you with you. And that's not something most people are ready for. Because facing yourself is harder than facing the world. But it's also the beginning of something powerful. Because in that space, I started asking real questions. Who am I when no one is around to impress? What do I believe when no one is guiding me? What kind of life do I want, even if no one else approves? Loneliness became my mirror. It showed me who I was beneath the expectations, the masks, the roles, and that person, though tired, though wounded, was still standing, still fighting, still trying. Discovering strength in stillness, there's a kind of strength that only comes when life gets quiet. It's not loud, it doesn't scream for attention, it doesn't show off, but it's real. It's the kind of strength that builds slowly, silently, but surely. I began to notice it in myself. The fact that I could keep showing up every day even when it felt like no one noticed. The fact that I could motivate myself even when no one else was cheering me on. The fact that I could heal even without someone holding my hand. That's strength, that's resilience, that's self-respect. And I realized I wasn't broken, I was growing. The cracks didn't mean I was weak. They meant I had survived things most people never even saw. The loneliness didn't mean I was unworthy. It meant I was walking a path that required independence and self-trust. From emptiness to exploration, once I stopped resisting the loneliness, I began exploring it. I started journaling my thoughts. I picked up books that fed my soul. I sat in parks just to think. Not to be distracted, but to be present. I asked myself questions most people avoid their entire lives. And in those moments, I discovered something beautiful. I didn't need anyone else to complete me. I just needed to connect with the parts of myself I had ignored. I found creativity in that space. I found purpose. I discovered dreams I had buried under the weight of wanting to fit in. I began creating, not for validation, but for freedom, for expression, for me. Healing through self-discovery. Loneliness often brings up our deepest wounds. Childhood insecurities, feelings of abandonment, past betrayals, and at first that hurts. It brings tears, it brings anger. But healing can't begin without truth, and truth comes when the world goes quiet. I realized that much of my loneliness came from one root, the belief that I wasn't enough. So I began the real work, not of changing who I was, but of remembering who I had always been. I wrote affirmations on my wall. I started therapy. I took care of my body, not to look a certain way, but to honor it. I forgave people who never apologized. I let go of relationships that weren't rooted in love, but in convenience. And slowly I started to feel whole, not because everything was perfect, but because I was no longer at war with myself. A new kind of confidence. Being alone taught me confidence. Not the loud, in-your-face kind, but the kind that says, I don't need to be liked to feel valuable. I don't need a crowd to believe in my path. I am enough, even in silence. This confidence doesn't need approval. It doesn't need likes, followers, or applause. It's the kind that walks into a room and doesn't shrink to fit in. It expands to fill the space, because when you've learned to stand strong in solitude, no storm, no critic, no rejection can shake you. To anyone who feels alone right now, maybe you're in a season where you feel disconnected. Maybe friends have left. Maybe family doesn't understand you. Maybe you've tried to be strong, but the nights are long and the silence is heavy. I see you, I feel you, but hear me when I say this: you are alone, but you are not broken. You are becoming, you are awakening, you are healing. Use this season. Don't numb it, don't rush it. Let it refine you. Let it show you how strong you really are. Because one day, this loneliness will become your power. One day, you'll walk through life with a fire in your heart and peace in your mind. People will ask where it came from, and you'll smile and say, it came from the silence, from the struggle, from the days when I was alone, but never broken. When no one believed in me, I did. There comes a moment in everyone's life where the noise around you grows quiet. Not because things are peaceful, but because no one's clapping, no one's cheering, no one's watching. There's no support, no applause, no validation, no recognition, just you, and a decision to make. Will you give up because no one believes in you? Or will you rise not because of the world, but in spite of it? I know that moment. I've lived it. I've stood in that silence and heard the words echo in my head. You'll never make it. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? And you know what I did. I believed in me anyway. The pain of being overlooked, being doubted hurts. Being dismissed wounds you in places people never see. You start to question everything. Am I crazy for trying? Am I chasing something I'll never reach? Maybe they're right, but let me tell you the truth. Most people only believe in you after you've succeeded. Very few will see your potential before the result. So if you're waiting for the world to validate your vision, you'll wait forever. There was a time when I showed up every day, gave my all, pushed through the fear, and no one noticed. No one supported me. No one said, I believe in you. But I kept going. Why? Because my belief in myself became louder than their silence. Where self-belief begins self-belief isn't magic. It doesn't fall from the sky. It starts with a choice, the choice to bet on yourself, even when the odds say you shouldn't. It's not arrogance. It's not delusion. It's self-respect. It's saying, I might not be there yet, but I'm not quitting until I am. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to feel fearless. You just need to believe that the vision inside you is worth fighting for. That you are worth fighting for. Because when no one believes in you, that's the moment your belief matters most. Turning doubt into fuel, I remember the rejection letters, the failed attempts, the laughs behind my back. The people who said, you'll never be anything. And yes, it hurt, but I didn't let it stop me. I let it fuel me. Every no added fuel to my fire. Every eye roll made me train harder. Every critic made me sharpen my craft. Every moment of doubt became a reason to go harder. Because I realized something powerful. Their disbelief wasn't my ceiling. It was my starting line. Why belief is everything. Belief is the seed that turns into vision. Vision becomes action. Action becomes results. And results rewrite your story. But if you don't believe in yourself, nothing else matters. Not the opportunities, not the talents, not the tools. They all mean nothing if the one holding them doesn't believe they can build something great. And here's the truth. No one will fight for your dream like you will. No one should believe in it more than you. It's yours. It was given to you for a reason. You don't need a crowd. You don't need permission. You just need that fire inside to stay lit, becoming your own biggest supporter. People come and go. Friends change. Circumstances shift. If your belief is built on others, you'll fall every time they leave. So build a foundation that doesn't shake with opinions. Be the one who claps for yourself in the dark. Be the one who says we're not done yet. When failure knocks, be the one who wakes up and says, I don't care who doubts me. I believe in me. Because when you believe in you, you become dangerous. You stop waiting for handouts. You stop shrinking to fit in. You stop explaining yourself to small minds and you start building. You start rising. You start leading. You start living fully, proving yourself to yourself. This journey isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about showing up every day and saying, I said I could do this, now I'm going to. It's about becoming the version of yourself that your younger self would look up to. The version your future self will thank you for. Let your results do the talking. Let your persistence be your legacy. Let your transformation be the loudest response to the ones who doubted you. To the one no one believes in. Maybe you feel invisible. Maybe people laugh at your dream. Maybe you're tired of pushing without support. I get it, but I need you to remember this. You don't need their belief to succeed. You need yours. You have something they can't see. You have something they never understood. You have a fire that wasn't lit by the world, so the world can't put it out. Trust that, protect that, feed that, because one day the same people who ignored you will ask how you did it, and you'll smile and say, when no one believed in me, I did. Solitude is a strength, not a weakness. We live in a world that praises constant connection. We're told that being social, being surrounded, being seen, means you're doing well, and if you're alone, people assume something's wrong. You must be lonely, you must be unwanted, you must be broken. But let me break that myth right now. Solitude is not a weakness, it's a strength. Not everyone who stands alone is lost. Not everyone who walks their path solo is behind. In fact, some of the strongest, most grounded, and most resilient people you'll ever meet are the ones who learn to thrive in solitude. The world fears what it doesn't understand. Society often equates being alone with being lesser. It teaches us early that if you're not surrounded by friends, if you're not always busy, if your phone isn't constantly lighting up, you must be failing at life. But real life, real growth, doesn't happen in the noise. It happens in the silence. Solitude is where your voice gets louder than the world's. It's where you find clarity, not confusion, focus, not distraction, peace, not pressure. And yet, so many people are afraid of solitude because they've never seen it as power. They've only seen it as punishment. But solitude isn't something that happens to you. It's something you can choose, something you can own. It's where you build yourself piece by piece. Learning to stand without a crowd. There's a quote that says, if you can't be alone with yourself, you're in bad company. That hit me, because the truth is, most people are terrified of being alone, not because they need others, but because they've never learned to befriend themselves. But when you embrace solitude, you learn the art of self-connection. You learn how to encourage yourself, how to check your own thinking, how to sit with your emotions and listen instead of escape. You learn to stand tall, not because someone's holding you up, but because you've built the strength to carry yourself. There's power in not needing constant validation. There's courage in being able to say, I'm okay, even if no one's texting me back. There's maturity in using time alone not to sulk, but to build your skills, your peace, your future. Greatness grows in solitude. Every great thinker, creator, and leader has had a period of solitude. The most powerful ideas, they're born in quiet. The biggest breakthroughs, they come when the world turns down and the mind tunes in. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Solitude is the price of greatness." And he was right. You cannot rise to your full potential if you're always caught in the noise of the crowd. You need solitude to reflect, to assess, to create, to reset. It's in solitude that your character is shaped. It's in solitude that your calling becomes clear. It's in solitude that your vision sharpens and your discipline strengthens. Solitude is not isolation now. Don't confuse solitude with isolation. Isolation is what happens when you run from the world out of fear. Solitude is when you intentionally step back to connect more deeply with yourself, with your purpose, and sometimes with God. Isolation shrinks your world. Solitude expands it. In solitude, you're not closing yourself off from life. You're preparing yourself to live it more powerfully. You're not avoiding people. You're aligning your energy. You're not lonely. You're evolving. That shift in mindset changes everything. The ones who master solitude master life. If you can enjoy your own company, you'll never be dependent on others for your joy. If you can thrive alone, no rejection will break you. No betrayal will destroy you. No absence will define you, because you'll know you are whole. You are not half of something. You're not incomplete until someone else shows up. You are complete as you are. And when you move through the world with that kind of self-trust, people notice, not because you're loud, but because your energy speaks before you do. Use solitude as a weapon. Don't let the world make you feel ashamed for being alone. Use that space to train. Use it to read, to think, to heal, to write, to grow. Use solitude as a weapon of mastery. Build the habits others can't because they are too busy keeping up appearances. Learn the skills others ignore because they are too distracted. Strengthen the parts of you that no one claps for, but everyone will one day need. Let solitude be your edge. Let it give you a foundation so strong nothing can shake you. To anyone who feels too alone, right now maybe you're in a season where you're walking alone. Maybe you're surrounded by people who don't understand your vision. Maybe you feel like no one sees the real you. That's okay. This is not a punishment. This is not weakness. This is not failure. This is your preparation. You're being refined. You're being elevated. You're being carved into someone who doesn't just survive life, but leads it. So stop seeing your solitude as a curse. Start seeing it as the strength it truly is. One day you'll look back and realize everything that made you powerful was built in the silence. Everything that gave you wisdom was born when no one was watching. Everything the world will one day celebrate was forged in the fire of your solitude. You don't need a crowd to be great. You need courage. You don't need a spotlight to matter. You need solitude, because solitude is not a weakness. It is your superpower. Own it. Embrace it. Let it make you unstoppable.